My name is Cerise Holman, and, well, thank you so much for your testimony. It helps me a lot. I'm going to start reading what I have.
And take your time.
So, I'm here to speak on behalf of my family and all the families of Central America who have been wrongfully targeted with family separation, mandated reporting, and qualified immunity laws, which has affected many of our families for many, many years in our country. I'm here today to speak out against ACS's atrocities and demand that directors and supervisors of this agency be held accountable. My involvement with this fight began with my ancestors, who have been targeted by the system of genocide and racism, and continued holocaust of injustice towards our families as a punishment for simply being who we are, indigenous American Indians, whose identities have been stolen from us by fraudulent government officials who violate federal laws and use all kinds of nefarious acts against parents, such as incitement of genocide, racism, treason, and false imprisonment to silence us. This corrupt system, so-called the Administration for Children's Services, has basically done away with the Constitution to enforce their own laws and orders as a "because I said so" tactic that do more harm to our children than repair. My fight against this corrupt system of child removal and family separation began with Success Academy Charter School, the school my two underage daughters attended, which I'm aware is a division of the Department of Education. They are the ones who initiated this obstruction of my natural rights as a mother. One fateful day back in January 2017, after harassing me and my underage daughters for whatever nonsense they could make up, the Success Academy administration moved forward to falsely report me to the ACS State Central Registry for Educational Child Neglect, simply because I would not adhere to their disrespect, harassment, and bullying. And because of it, I decided to homeschool. Let the record show that before I was reported to the state registry, I was already reporting harassment and bullying to the charter school's founder. I'm not sure if I can say names,
I
but...
prefer that you didn't, but we get it.
Sure. Long before Success Academy's administration decided to report me to ACS for child neglect.
One quick question. How old
Yes.
are your children?
At this time, they're 10 and 11.
Okay, thank you.
At the time when this happened, they were 6 and 7. So this is an ongoing family court matter that I have been fighting since 2017. And
Thank you.
I have not seen my children. I have not physically seen my children since 2018.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
They're being hidden by ACS. Okay, so I'll just pick up where I left off. I was already reporting harassment and bullying to the charter school's founder. This should have been deemed as a retaliation tactic against me, but instead, once ACS became involved, many illegal things were already going on, and ACS moved forward to file a fraudulent petition against me. Let the record show that the ACS initiated this fraudulent petition against both me and my children's father that was void of a commissioner's signature, which deemed the petition fraudulent, null, and void by law. This did not stop the ACS in family court. from targeting me and criminalizing me and having me investigated, to say the least. ACS caseworkers and supervisors are protected under qualified immunity laws that protect them, even though they break the law with acts such as making unexpected visits to the parents' homes, banging on our doors, and threatening the parents and frightening our children all times of the day and night, even when they know the children have to wake up early to be at school the next day. ACS forced me into an initial hearing one morning in February of 2017 and demanded that I appear at court at 2:30 p.m. the same day, at the same time I was scheduled to pick up my children from school. It didn't make sense that the same people who were falsely accusing me of neglect was expecting me to simply abandon my children at school just to be at a fraudulent court case. I knew matters were getting worse when they tried to tell me that if I didn't stay to see the judge that day, instead of go and pick up my children, that I would be in trouble. Needless to say, I proceeded to go and pick up my children, choosing my children over staying at court. I showed up at court and informed, okay, so there's a discrepancy there.
No problem.
The next day I showed up at court and I informed the court that I could not stay because I had to pick up my children from school. Court was held without me, and I was informed to return the next day. I'm sorry about that. There was a discrepancy there. Upon my initial appearance in front of, there's a name there, so I'll just pass that. I was deprived of my legal right to have an attorney upon the initial court appearance. I made the court aware that I know that they were operating against me in an unlawful way and had no personal jurisdiction over me and my children, as they are a corporation targeting my minor children and operating as a fraudulent government. American Indian families are supposed to be held to a different standard and are a protected class in America. The Indian Child Welfare Act was supposed to protect my children from being separated from me once I informed the court that my children are in fact Indian children, and demanded that the court honor our sovereignty and my personal jurisdiction over myself as a freestanding, free-thinking indigenous woman who has already raised 2 adult children and have experienced raising children, as I am a matriarch in my family.
Ms. Hoffman, I want to hear every word. We have a lot of people who are testifying, so if I could ask you to finish up, if you can. We've already gone over the 5 minutes.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't want to rush you. I want you to tell your story, but.
Okay, so I'll just pass a lot of this, and I'll go down to
Go ahead. No, please continue.
Similarly, in the criminal justice system, law enforcement has to read people their rights when they're in custody. But CPS doesn't have any obligation to tell parents what our rights are. No one tells us that we don't have to speak to them or tell them or let them into our homes, or that anything we tell them can be used against us. There's no confidentiality. The only thing worse than the trauma of being investigated by ACS is the trauma of being separated. My family experienced an immense amount of pain while we were kept away from each other. Once, while participating in a court-mandated supervised visit, ACS caseworkers became angry at my daughter for asking for and receiving my phone number, which I had given to her on a small piece of paper she tightly balled up in her hand. The workers became hostile. They grabbed my daughter's hand and twisted her fingers to pry it open, stating stating over and over again, you can't have her number, let it go. You can't have her number, you're not allowed to have it.
Wow.
As my daughter screamed and cried, why, that's my mommy, and I want to call my mommy, I want my mommy. They proceeded to drag my daughters out of the meeting room. I was manhandled by an ACS police, the ACS police security guard who brutalized me, attacked me, and restrained me. ACS works closely with the police, as I saw when they called the police on me. However, the police are required to read me my rights when they interrogate and detain me. ACS is not even subject to that limited accountability. I was forced to leave my children behind with strangers that day, right after witnessing their violent treatment. The whole time I could hear my children screaming, I want my mommy, in the next room. The family court system forces parents to jump through hoops, and most parents do because they want to see their children again. After the incident where my daughter cried out for me at the supervised visits, the judge blamed me and suspended my visits until I completed a mental health evaluation, something I had already submitted in my favor. This type of surveillance and punishment is typical of what parents are subjected to by ACS. The mental health evaluation did not make me a better parent or improve my family's well-being, but it was time, energy, and dignity I was forced to expend as a consequence of giving my daughter my phone number. I went to court to demand to see my children. What mother would just sit back? If you have children, you know how hard it is to be away from them. Now a judge is telling you that you can't even see them. And like most parents, I'm sure, I was shouting at the judge. I went looking for my children because I missed them and I wanted to protect them. Although there were orders of protections, fraudulent orders of protections put against me.
My friends in the back, do me a favor, I'd like to hear the witness, please.
The courts were trying to separate us, to rip my kids away from me. One time, I even told the judge that he auctioned off my children as if we were still in slavery times. ACS and the family court labeled me irate. They labeled me mentally ill. Most good parents would be irate if they were told that they couldn't see their kids. They threw me in jail several times and forced me into a mental health evaluation situation. They also sent me to a mental institution and had me locked up there for about 2 weeks. It was called an involuntary commitment. I was told there that I would never be released until I met a kind judge who understood my issues and demanded that I be released. I don't like to share that I was in a mental institution because of the stigma, but I want to be very transparent. It still hurts me very bad. I was in the facility for a week or two. The doctor told me I was involuntarily committed by the judge and that I'd never make it out. Okay, I said that already. It felt very dehumanizing, like I was property, like they were fighting over property and I had no rights. I typically like to speak for myself, as is my right, but they didn't let me have a voice. The judge would cut me off, wouldn't let me answer a question. I was being silenced, and I knew it. And I had to argue to be heard. Then I would get labeled as irate. They created this catch-22 that at first I thought I couldn't win. Parents get caught between a rock and a hard place. We know we can't be aggressive because they won't give us our children back. But I haven't seen my children in 3 years, almost 4. I'm running out of patience. If you are a parent, how would you react to not seeing your kids physically in so many years? When ACS first started their case against me, I had an apartment and a stable home. But because of what ACS put me through, they conspired to put me out of my home, and I lost my home. I lost my apartment. How was that helping my family or my children? ACS says its job is to help families, but really, they are only making matters worse and putting our children in danger. My main goal is to see my little girls again, of course. I want the system that allows for families to be separated to change. I want the people who do this to innocent parents to be held accountable. No one should have the power to rip children and babies from their families, from their loving families, especially and particularly their protective, loving mothers. The end. I conclude.
Thank you very, very much for your testimony. Yeah. It takes an incredible amount of courage to do what both of you just did, and I'm really grateful, and that will inform how we look to change the system in the future. But thank you for testifying, both of you.